This is a Dude Studios production. And hey, I'm the dude. Welcome back to Hey Bartender Podcast. This episode, I am bringing back my good friend Shannon Moore. For those of you who have been longtime listeners of this podcast, she was the very first guest I ever had on my show. I had really decided, in order to bring a guest on the show, I need to take advantage of my friends, and luckily she let me do it a second time. We also get to hear the brand new single from Lara Hope and the Arctones, so you'll want to stick around for that. But before we get this bar open, let's start off with the drink recipe. This one is pulled from the recipe book on DiageoBarAcademy.com, and it's called Ciroc and Peppered Strawberry - Calorie Conscious. A brief description about this drink. Spice it up. Ciroc vodka chilled with light lemonade, fresh strawberries, and a pinch of pepper. Serve straight up. This is a sweet and sassy sippers got zing. Wow, try to say that 3 times fast. Anyway, the recipe. You need 1.5 ounces of Ciroc vodka, 1.5 ounces of light lemonade, 1/4 sliced strawberries, and 1 pinch of fresh ground pepper. Here's how you make it. Combine all the ingredients in an ice-filled shaker. Shake well, strain into a well-chilled martini glass, and garnish with a strawberry slice. If you try that, or you get one of your customers to try it, please let me know. And all you have to do is email me, dude@heybartenderpodcast.com. And don't forget to visit our website, www.heybartenderpodcast.com. So now that we got the drink special out of the way, Lara Hope and the Arctones, would you please help me get this bar open?
Hey bartender, pass me a drink. A reason that I'm here is I need time to think. All the way
Anyway, I guess we'll just get started here. Hit record here, and we're off to the races. So Shannon, welcome back to Hey Bartender Podcast.
Happy to be back.
It
Once again.
is some of my listeners might know, you were my very, very first guest on this show ever. And of course, since you and I have been friends for over 20 years, it only seemed to be appropriate that you were the first guest. And you are also, as of right now, the first repeat guest. So congratulations.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did miss the 100th anniversary party, but...
No, technically you were there, since that was a best of episode. I think I put a clip of you in there.
I know, and I need to find that one so I can take a look at it, because I was looking for it, because I heard I had a special mention in there or something. So.
Oh, it's the 100th episode, so. But anyway, so glad to have you back. As usual with everything that, ever since you and I met, everything bartending related or customer service related, I've always come to you for advice, or you've smacked me over the head and said you're doing it wrong. And so, it's been 3 years later. There are new topics, there are new things that we can talk about. And just for a reminder to all the listeners, if you want to go back and listen to Shannon's backstory, we do would you agree it was a fairly quick summary on your career as a bartender? The first episode that we did together.
Yeah, it was pretty speedy.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a long time to go through 30 years of bartending, so...
But,
some I'm sure I've had a lot more stories to say, but, you don't always remember everything at the same time.
No, I have to agree with you on that, just because I've done...
Certain things pop up, and I'm like, Warren, why didn't I talk about that? Why didn't I talk about that? 'Cause that would have been fun.
Well, it's tough even for me. I mean, I've done almost 180 episodes of this show, and I'll sit back and think, God, I don't know what to talk about for tonight's show. But then all of a sudden, something will smack me over the head in the middle of the night, and if I don't write it down, it'll be gone forever. And
I do that. I do that all the time. I do that all the time. And in fact, I was, trying to think of things for the genre for today, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure, but should I write stuff down? I'm not really sure, maybe.
Oh, come on. You know that pretty much our conversations, at least, are fairly organic. I mean, all the
Yeah.
late night conversations you and I used to have after bartending and eating grilled cheese sandwiches, that was just the way you and I used to roll.
Yeah, grilled cheese at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
your San Francisco sourdough grilled cheese were always
Mm-hmm.
awesome, but they would also hit the bottom of my stomach like a lead pellet.
Well, it's either that or Denny's at 3 in the morning
That was fun too.
for
That
breakfast,
was fun too. But
which was also a great time.
yeah, that's all of us getting together. Those were all, get great times. I mean, you, me, Barb, and Jim, Carl. Just going over to Denny's and we just joke around pretty much the whole night.
Or a garage party at Barb's.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, when you and I would just sit at your place, watch a movie because neither of us were tired enough to go to bed yet after work.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd usually, well, not always, but you'd most of the time fall asleep, and I'd sneak out of your house while you fell asleep on the couch. But it was always good conversation and good company. So,
I still miss shopping at 3 in the morning though, when Thriftway used to be open.
oh yeah,
I used to
I'm
go shopping at 3 in the morning and buy my groceries. It was so much fun there.
well, because there's nobody there,
Yes, exactly.
and it's a lot different right now. I mean, even with coronavirus and all that stuff going on right now, you still feel if you go to the grocery store in the middle of the day, it gets really claustrophobic.
Well, since I work there now.
Yeah. You get a little claustrophobic every once in a while, just all of a sudden people piling up in your line.
Well, I'm just in a register, so I kind of have my own spot, but
And you still got the plexiglass separating you and your customers.
yeah, but not even the registers are 6 feet apart. So
Yeah, true.
the people aren't going to be 6 feet apart.
Hmm. So,
Yeah, I just have to try and work with the customers that I get. I have the ones that really don't care. I have the ones that care way too much, and I have the ones that are just, being careful. I have the other ones that are really paranoid. And then, I try and appeal to people's sensitivities or lack of,
yeah, there seems to be a lot of that going around lately.
which it just, everybody's different, you know, and being out there 7 days a week, working with the public every single day,
Yeah,
I just try and work with whatever that person's comfort zone is,
yeah,
because that's all you can do, really.
sure. Well, since I already kind of gave you a basic idea of something that has come up that I'm a little bit curious about. You have a lot more experience behind the bar, going back a little bit farther than me, and the subject of political correctness, of course, has been a huge deal for the last couple of years, and everything from the Me Too movement to Black Lives Matter to Stop Asian Hate, all that stuff. And you go back into the 80s. Now,
Hmm.
when you see all this stuff happening on TV and compare it to the way it was, let's go back. We don't have to go all the way back to your first day behind the bar or anything like that, um, but how would you compare the way people acted back then to the way people act today?
Well, it was totally different. I mean, I don't, it's really, back in the 80s, or, even before that when I was in high school. But I mean, back in the 80s when I first started being out there and in the restaurants and the bars and working, people's, it was kind of some stuff was just like standard, has always stayed standard. Like, don't talk politics and religion in the bar. That's always been a thing.
Oh yeah,
And that's always, it started with me as a thing, and it still has always been a thing. That's just not something you completely discourage that anywhere you go, because it will start a fight.
yeah, guaranteed.
So, and it has. So those are two things that, if you had patrons trying to do that, you would just say, yeah, we don't do that here. You're supposed to be here drinking and having fun, and we don't talk politics or religion in here.
Yeah, that's something that even with this podcast, I try to avoid those subjects as much as possible, just because one, I don't know all this everything behind politics, and just politics and religion don't belong in the bar. You expect everybody to drink, have a good time, dance, laugh, all that stuff, and that's kind of why I'll kind of try to avoid it on this podcast, because I want to give. It's part of the whole thing of trying to give the illusion that you're actually talking to a bartender when you're listening to my podcast. Hopefully you.
Well, yeah, and then God forbid this last year anybody. Luckily, the bars were closed.
Yeah.
So because inevitably somebody would have brought up politics in the bars this year, because they even did in the grocery store.
Right.
And it's like, come on, yeah, we're just not discussing that.
Yeah.
People get to have their political views,
Yeah.
and they get to pick and choose what they want to have, and it gets to be okay for them to have their view, and you can have your view, and I don't see why there has to be a problem, but people do have a problem with it.
Well, sure.
It's like, I'm sorry I didn't pick your guy.
Yeah.
Or or somebody's like, why didn't you pick my guy? What's wrong with my guy?
Right.
And it's like, it's just, it's very personal. I think politics is very personal. And
well, so is religion.
Her people are getting, religion, but I mean, just this last year, the politics was a big deal.
Right.
So, but I have people unfriending people because of their political views. It's like, that doesn't make that person a bad person.
Yeah.
You don't like what they have to say, then just don't answer them.
Exactly. Social media kind of took over pretty much.
It was really just horrible. Like I said, luckily the bars were closed.
Right.
Could have been a lot of bar fights this year.
But
back in the day, you could just say, hey, you just can't talk about this. And nowadays, I don't know if people really feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, and well, I do remember one night, you weren't there that night at Paradise, but your friend from Wankers, she had one too many, and she started running around asking people if they vote. And I wanted to stop her, but it was hilarious.
Which one was it?
I don't remember her name. The really short one. Doesn't matter.
Short blonde hair.
Yeah, but anyway, it doesn't matter if there
was a few blondes there.
Yeah, Jail liked his blondes, but
yeah,
it's luckily the bars were closed, but everybody in the last 10, 20 years has really taken to social media and really started to try to broadcast themselves all over the place. And at first I was sitting back thinking, at least they're not bringing it into the bar, because what bartender wants to break up that fight every night? But it's also causing like social disconnection from everybody, when social media was supposed to bring everybody together in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And since you can't since for all last year, most people couldn't go to their favorite bar to hang out with their friends who are most likely like-minded and enjoy themselves, it became tougher on everybody. Let's talk about something like back in the 80s. A lot of this stuff is a little bit touchy. That's why, truthfully, I really wanted you on the show, because I really, really needed a female's point of view on some of this stuff. Like for example, when I was bartending with you, I was fairly protective of the girls that came in when I was working, even though most of the girls absolutely needed no protection from me, or they didn't need my help for anything because they were all tough as nails. But when you see guys, how they when I watched guys when I was working, how they treated the girls, and some guys would treat girls differently than others. Some are more aggressive. Was there a lot of change between when you started bartending up to, well, let's bring it up to today. I mean, in the bar scenario, the last time you remember working behind the bar, did women get treated differently way back when than compared to present time?
Oh yeah, I was just talking about this with my friend today at work, and basically,
Oh,
getting.
interrupt you real quick. I apologize wholeheartedly for referring to the '80s as way back when.
Oh no, you're fine. My son said to me, my son said, "Oh, you need to get your corona shot. You're old." And then he's like, "I mean, you're older. I mean, you're older. Not old, mom. Just older."
That's
I'm
funny.
like, it's okay, kid.
Well, it
It's
breaks my
fine.
heart every once in a while when I'm listening to the classic rock station out here in Texas and Nirvana's on it, and I'm like, when did Nirvana become classic rock? Well, it was
Are you
25 years ago.
you're getting dated now? You're getting dated now.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, when your songs are in the elevator, then you can be sad because, a lot of my songs are elevator songs now apparently. I don't know. But considering I like all music from the 50s
true,
to now.
true.
So I don't date myself because I like all music even though I wasn't born. So, but no, I was just talking to my friend today. Cocktailing is a prime example. It was not unusual to get your ass smacked while you were cocktailing.
Mm.
Um, would be highly inappropriate these days, and I don't even find that anybody would even attempt to do that to anyone.
Well, even back in
But
when I used to
back in the
bartend,
old days, in the 80s, it was not uncommon and kind of was considered, part of your job.
yeah,
Like that's going to
unfortunately.
happen to you.
Yeah, even when I was bartending, was the occasional, not too often, occasional guy that would do that to a waitress, and I would immediately eject them from the bar if they did it. But uh, well, that was just one of the scenarios. There were a couple different scenarios where a girl got smacked on the behind, and uh, she all of a sudden diffused it by saying, "Oh, it's okay, I know the guy," or something like that. Um, but yeah, cocktail waitressing back in the '80s, that was basically how it was. Really?
Well, yeah, basically you you had choices. You could do something which normally you didn't do because it could cost you possibly your job or a tip or something else, but or you could just walk away from it, or you could ignore it or and just move on, or if you knew some really cool guys, which you always were supposed to make friends with, the bikers and some high power guys in the bar. You could always put a little bug in their ear and they take care of it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And because things happen on the down low like that all the time
Mm.
there.
Yeah,
There,
that's something that I've
there.
brought up on this show quite a few times. Is make friends with the bikers, and then you don't have to worry about a thing anymore. The
I was always told, and when I first started, you make friends with the biggest, baddest guys in the freaking bar. Bikers were one of them.
mm,
Repo guys. There was some big wig repo guys that used to work for a huge car dealership in town. Don't know if I'm supposed to say names or not.
let's not, just for fun.
Yeah. So, they would be the guys that worked for these big wigs, and they'd go out and repo cars, and they were huge.
Mm.
They're huge men, and they were very popular. The drug scene was very open then. It was hugely open. I used to get tipped with Coke folded up into dollar bills, and we had this big tip jar, and they'd fold it up into a dollar bill, like in a little square or something, and
Sure.
they'd throw it in my tip jar. Well, I never told them I didn't do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you just never told them that. You just accepted it. You just didn't like, oh, thank you very much, but I don't do that. You just never said anything. You just let them do whatever they wanted to do.
Mm.
And they, of course, assumed you did because you worked in the business. Like, they assumed, all cocktail waitresses, all bartenders slept around.
Slept around. We
That
all did
that was
drugs.
just
We all
it.
drank.
Everybody
Yeah.
did drugs. Everybody slept around.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, because you did that job.
Well, I think people
So
still think that about
you
bartenders and
were
servers.
labeled. I'm not saying it's not true.
Yeah.
In
Well,
in,
yeah.
in many cases,
Yeah.
it is true, but you know, in some cases it's not. A lot of people, it's like, we had the strip joint across the street, which I won't name either, but those girls used to come in and have drinks before they would go to work.
That strip club, if it's the one I'm thinking of, doesn't even exist anymore.
No, it's gone now.
Yeah. But
But
anyway.
they weren't supposed to. But they would come in, and the door guys would let them in. There was a lot of minors.
Hmm.
Door guys would let them in anyways.
Yeah.
OLCC wasn't really a thing back then. Not for years. I
Right.
mean, we didn't they weren't even a threat to anything in the bar. You could do anything. The only time you really got I'm off track now. The only time you really got kicked out of a bar was if you started a bar fight.
Right.
And you got taken out of there hard and fast.
Right.
But the girls would come in. I mean, those were girls. They had kids. They were trying to support their families. That was how they were making a living. And the money was so good they couldn't get another job
Right.
that wouldn't just pay them minimum wage.
Now, I remember, since you were talking about, make friends with the biggest, baddest people, I do remember there were a lot of customers that used to come in to when you and I were working together, who were always very, well, even probably before and after you and I worked together, were very protective of you at all times.
Oh yeah. Always, most places I worked in had door guys.
Mhm.
And they were very protective of any of the females. This was a little later. This was the 90s, but this one guy in this bar I worked in, before I was old enough to like not care,
Mm.
he called me a bitch. Is that okay to say on the show?
Yeah, it's a podcast. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so and he said, I don't remember what else he said to me. He said something else, and I like literally was on my tiptoes. I had grabbed him by the shirt, like the scruff of his shirt, and pulled him up to me and basically started going off on him about how he couldn't talk to me like that and he was going to leave. But before I got done with that, like 6 customers grabbed him and took him outside and freaking basically pummeled him in the parking lot, which I didn't think was necessary. But that guy was probably kind of sorry about that.
But as time progressed, though, at least at the bars that I worked at, you might have had much different experiences at all the places that you worked. The overall, there's still people out there that look down on people in the service industry and think lowly of us just because we don't, just because they can It seems like at times. Um, but but the way that the things like sexual harassment and uh, other things like that, I I don't know. I didn't really witness it all that much. I mean, there were a couple days that I do remember, but it wasn't all day every day. Did that change over time? Did you notice?
There was not a such thing as sexual harassment. That wasn't even a thing.
True, that became more of a '90s thing.
They didn't even name that when in the 80s as as a sexual harassment. There wasn't, like I said, you just dealt with it.
Mm,
You dealt with whatever anyone said, and if you, like I said, if you had a problem, if you could go to somebody about it that would take care of it for you, or you would ignore it and you would just deal with it.
mm,
It wasn't really something that, you would constantly, you know, get invited for, come over for sex, or come and do this, or, I was working in a hotel. I had some customers that said there'll be $100 bill waiting for you at the front desk if you come, and a room key.
oh, okay, yeah, that's scary.
Here's a room key and $100 bill if you come to my room after work,
Y-
which I never did.
No,
But I'm sure people did, though. This is how they would, like, why would you assume that unless you've already gotten away with it before?
right.
People thought it was okay to do that. In today's day and age, I think somebody would be very hesitant to do that unless they were, positive about who they were targeting.
Mm.
I don't see your average guy doing that anymore.
Yeah, it might
I mean, I'm
happen.
sure it's done in Vegas, or, because it probably always has been. But I wouldn't say, I would say back in the 80s, it was completely acceptable to do stuff like that. And either you took the opportunity or you didn't take it.
Hmm.
So you walked away from it.
Right,
And, I needed $100 just as much as anyone, but come on.
right.
I mean, just the fact that they had the audacity to do that
Yeah,
would just be a reason not to do it,
that's
you know.
really gutsy. That's the only one word that I can come up with right now. Wish I could think of
No, but that's how
something
they
worse. But
were. So
yeah,
this is in the 80s. This is what happy hour was in the 80s.
it's like an episode of
It
Mad Men.
it completely changed in the 90s.
Mm,
When I went from Charlie's Bar and Grill, the hotel,
mm,
to Oswego Bar and Grill in Lake Oswego. Charlie's was the hotel in the 80s, and then I moved to Oswego Grill in the 90s. Okay, in the 80s, happy hour was like what you would think of a nightclub. Happy hour was you dressed to your best. The women dressed in nice dresses, high heels, your basic 5 to 7 happy hour,
mm,
all done up, all fancied out, all the nice jewelry. The guys had Armani suits on. They had gold jewelry because that was a thing. They had the Rolex watches. They had gold chains. Everybody met up for happy hour. Everybody was dressed to the nines
mm.
for happy hour. And that went on through most of the 80s. By the 90s, happy hour changed to freaking polo shirts and khaki shorts.
Now, you think that was a change of the times, or do you think that was a change of the venue?
It was change. It was both.
Because you said you went from working in a hotel bar to a restaurant bar, and
Well, see, this was in 1985
mm,
to probably 1990, when I first started in 85, that's how fancy it was.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have hire these people to come in that had lingerie products, and people that came in and had furs, and they would walk in. The girls were hired to walk in, little models to walk in through happy hour and model lingerie and model
No kidding.
furs all through, to the clients in the happy hour in the hotel.
They were peddling stuff for people during happy hour.
Yeah, they had businesses that would come in and they had their little models go through and
Wow.
try and sell stuff to people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were actually short a model one day, and I got to model a fur coat and walk around the bar. That was kind of fun.
I bet that was cool.
It was kind of fun. But, when I got to Oswego Grill, 85 to 91, I worked at Charlie's and or Sweetbriar Inn. So, and the clubs were huge.
Mhm.
Clubs were enormously huge still. So I was there for 6 years. My first, from 85, at least until 85 till at least the first 4 years there, it was very fancy. All the dining was tuxedos,
Mm-hmm.
professional dining, opening the wine at the table, having them taste the wine.
Which that brings up a question that I've always wondered. If they ask for a wine and then you let them taste a little or something like that, if they decide they hate it, what do you do with it?
You get rid of it and bring them another bottle.
Do you charge them for the other bottle?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No.
Something I've always wondered.
Nope. They don't like it, then you get rid of it, or I don't know, maybe we drank it. I don't remember.
Or
But
would you try to sell it to another table? Or
No.
oh.
No, I mean, possibly when I first started there, I was in fine dining. So possibly they might have poured that bottle off in the bar or something.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But we would definitely, a dining room customer, you would bring them a completely brand new bottle.
Now that has to go along with questions about liquor costs of yesterday versus today. We're going to take a quick minute here to congratulate Adam Fournier for becoming the United States Bartender of the Year 2021. Adam competed recently in the world-class U.S. bartending competition brought to you by the United States Bartenders Guild and Diageo. He competed in tough competition against the 50 other best bartenders of the year to win the #1 position. Congratulations to him. If you want to catch any of the past moments from the world-class bartending competition, go to www.diageobaracademy.com and you can watch all the action up until April 14th. Just go to www.diageobaracademy.com, click on the banner World Class and register, and you'll be able to watch until April 14th all the competition leading up to Adam's #1 position. Congratulations to him. And there's also a bunch of other stuff that you can check out there. They also have many events from expert-led panels, including food, flavors, and loyalty, batching for to-go and delivery, and decoding menus. Remember to visit www.diageobaracademy.com, click on World Class, and register by April 13th to access the entire event. And best of all, it's all free and on demand. Go register today.
Hey, bartender.
The change in the 90s, it almost went from, how do you say it, formal wear to business casual, it sounds like. The difference between the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, so in the 80s, I was cocktailing with 3-inch heels on for 9 hours a day.
Wow.
And we had to wear skimpy cocktail dresses.
Mm-hmm.
At first, when we started there, we were wearing these crazy little cheerleader outfits. Literally cheerleader outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, it came to like these polyester, like wraparound really short in the front, longer in the back, with like a sequin belt and 3-inch heels.
Did you feel like a showgirl or?
Yeah, they were disgusting. And I went through so many pantyhose, it's not even funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we had to wear pantyhose.
Right. You probably had those when pantyhose used to come in those plastic eggs. You probably had those all over
Yeah,
the place.
legs pantyhose, legs pantyhose. I think I spent $1 million on legs pantyhose back in the day. So, and of course they were black.
Of course.
But you get one run in them, you can't wear them again,
Right. And
which happened easily. And then in the 90s in Oswego Bar and Grill, it was kind of like an Oswego on the lake kind of place.
Mhm.
So in the daytime, we had to wear polos and khaki shorts. And then if we worked like dinner and then cocktailing, we had to actually change our clothes into the nighttime wardrobe, which was a black skirt and a tuxedo shirt and a tie.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to actually go in and change if we worked dinner and then cocktail.
That's now just the uniforms alone. That's changed a lot. Even up to the point where I started bartending in '99, because all the places that I went to, not that I went to any fine dining or a lot of clubs, but even the strip
Jeans
clubs,
and bar shirts.
even the strip clubs, the cocktail waitresses didn't dress like that. They wore vests and black pants and a white shirt most of the time.
Well, it just when then I was in Wankers in the 90s, it was blue jeans and bar shirts.
Yeah.
You wore logo bar shirts and you wore jeans.
Yeah. That's the way it started out for me. Well, when I was a banquet bartender, I had to wear a really stupid vest and a even dumber bow tie.
Yeah, we did. I did banquets too. And we had to wear the tuxedo. I call them the tuxedos.
Yeah. But when I met you, it was the Hawaiian shirts and jeans. That's it.
Yeah. And well, yeah, the Hawaiian shirt, and that's what Wankers had too.
Yeah.
At first we had the Hawaiian shirts, but then we started incorporating just liquor t-shirts that we could wear when we were doing promos and stuff. But yeah, your jeans and your Hawaiian shirt, depending on the bar that you worked in, would depend on what shirt. But they, out here where it's more casual, I don't know what they were doing downtown at that point because I didn't really go downtown. But the club started dying out in the 90s.
Right.
And you were lucky to find many places to go dancing.
See,
all of them started closing down. There was too much fights and shootings and things like that. And one by one, all the big clubs started closing down.
Right. Do you think that it was just a sign of the times, just a trend that all of this, from wearing cocktail skirts all the way up to being able to just wear jeans?
Well, I think that life became more casual. Even through the years, even the big wig car guys that I knew, because a lot of them that were with me over at the hotel started coming over to Oswego Grill when I worked.
Mm-hmm.
And they're dressing different too. They're in khakis, they're in polo shirts. They're not sporting their Armani suits anymore. They're not sporting the gold jewelry. I think it's just the change of environment and change of times. And, at the time, that was what you were supposed to wear.
Right.
And then it changed.
Now,
then everybody got more casual, and casual was acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
It was more sporty. And it was more trendy. I think it was more maybe of a trend. Now, when we used to go to work back in the 80s, if we were planning on going out after work, like we would go out to like Holiday Inn or something
Mm.
after work, we would bring heels and a freaking dress, a fancy dress.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we would change out of our work clothes and get into high heels and a fancy dress to go over to flirt at the Holiday Inn,
Right.
to go dancing. And you would dress up after work. You know, now people go to they go to the bars in their pajamas,
Basically,
for gosh
yeah.
sakes. They're in freaking sweats and slippers. They don't care. Nobody cares anymore. It just became not a thing to dress up when you go out.
Right. It's not as much of an event or a big deal anymore to be able to go out. It's just something you do.
Yeah, it's not about dressing up. I mean, even if people even dress up for New Year's Eve, I would be surprised.
Hmm.
Well, nowadays, I don't believe they probably do because nobody gets to go out right now. But
Right.
I mean, literally, how many times a year does a woman actually dress up to go out anywhere? Maybe to a wedding,
True.
but where else? I mean, no dining. I don't believe any dining establishment nowadays requires people to dress up. I mean, there used to be places
Yeah. Black
in the
tie
80s,
only.
they
Yeah.
wouldn't let you in unless you had a tie
Yeah. Or
and a jacket
and a jacket. Yeah.
for guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a thing for a long time.
I remember.
They would give you a tie and a jacket to wear. They actually had spare ones.
Right.
You're going to have to put this on or you can't come in.
I remember I used to feel sorry every once in a while for some of the women that came into our bar because they'd show up there with their husband and they just got finished with a date and it's their anniversary or something like that, and she's dressed to the nines. He's actually wearing a shirt that has buttons on it, and all she does is sit at the buddy bar and watch him play pool with his buddies all night long. I actually felt sorry for those girls for some reason.
Well, I don't know if I feel sorry for them because I think that was their choice.
True.
And if you want to be that person, then I'm sorry for that. If you want to be that person,
Mm-hmm.
you should. I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I mean, if you go out with somebody, then you're supposed to be out with them.
Right.
But if that's their choice, then I guess that's okay. And I understand why you would feel bad for them.
Yeah.
But, if, I don't know, I just wouldn't do something like that.
I don't know how common that was. I mean, I'd seen a lot of people, whether it was lottery or a video game or shooting pool in a bar. The other person that came in with them was usually, just happy just to be hanging out, pretty much. But every once in a while, I could see that look in that another person's face, like, oh God, he's going to do another one. He's going to play another game or something, whatever,
Yeah. Well, we've been there.
Yeah.
You and I have been there before.
Yeah. But going out from is not nearly as formal anymore. It's almost even when I was bartending back in early 2000s, it was I used to kind of set that apart from it was just the atmosphere of the bars that I worked at. Places that we worked out in Wilsonville attracted more of the blue collar workers.
Well, and it's just amazing just going because the bar I worked in was in Tualatin. Okay.
Right.
That's not fancy. You didn't go out unless you dressed up.
Right.
Period. You didn't come out in your jeans and a t-shirt into the bar. No one did.
Right.
It just didn't happen. But by the 90s, it was okay. But in the 80s, the early 80s, it was not okay.
Mm.
So I'm assuming that even before that, before I was even, out there, I'm assuming that was going on, in the 70s also.
Yeah.
My parents would go out often, and they always dressed up
Sure.
if they were going out.
You
They
could.
always were dressed in full suit, and my dad was in full suit, and mom was in. Dad had all the suits. They wore suits to work.
Yeah, which
Okay,
doesn't happen that often anymore.
nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
He had every suit, every color, every tie. He wore suits every day of his life,
Right.
dress suits to work. That is not even a thing. It hasn't been a thing since the 90s.
And
So,
your dad was the wine editor for the Oregonian, so that was kind of the way he had to portray himself. It wasn't it?
yeah, he was an editor for the Oregonian, but I mean, he would just go to the Oregonian mostly
Mm.
and be on the computer.
Mm.
But he was wearing a suit. I mean, he was just in the building. I mean, he would certainly go to functions. And Dad used to do also a restaurant column for the Journal.
Mm.
But when they went to work, he wore a suit every day since I was a child. And it didn't start changing until he was retired by then, and didn't start changing until the 90s.
Well, I even remember my dad when he'd go to work, and my mother
I mean,
also.
unless you work construction or something.
Yeah. I even remember when my parents went to work in the 80s. Mom dressed in a nice dress. Dad would wear a suit and tie. But then as times changed, it became a lot more casual. But then Dad was still wearing a tie to work. But then all of a sudden his work said, nope, you get a uniform. And so pretty much wearing a tie went out the window right after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends on what your business was.
Yeah, but Dad, just like your dad, all he did was sit in an office at a computer, and
Well, that's what Dad did too,
yeah,
but he wore a suit every day.
yeah.
That man had like every color of suit possible. I don't even know how many ties he had.
You give him a lot of ties for Christmas?
Oh, he got ties all the time, but he's sorry. He went from like really pretty fancy ties down to like Bugs Bunny ties and Looney Tunes, and then he started wearing fun ties, but he was still wearing the suit.
Sure.
But then it branched out into like not these like Armani ties. He would be wearing like fun ties,
Right.
and so they started lightening up at some point.
Yeah, that was just a sign of the times at that point in time. Just it from the 80s to versus today.
The 80s to the 90s was, I feel like I'm pretty blessed to have gone through both of those decades because they were so different, and even to now, and even from, I'll just say, date myself and say from the 70s, because everything, each decade was just highly different from the other one.
Mhm.
And, 2000 is the same way. It's going to be different. It's already started,
Yeah, I'm actually kind of like you mentioned earlier that nobody got to go out to express themselves in a bar for the last year, but out here in Texas where I live, all the governor opened up all businesses to operate at full capacity and left it up to the businesses whether or not to wear the customers have to wear masks or not.
Well, they opened up Arizona too, which is where my son is. And
Right.
they opened up Arizona also, and actually they opened up some of the biggest states that had the highest rates.
Right.
So I don't get it, but I don't know what's happening like with the numbers over there, if they're spiking, but I know out here in Oregon, we can't even have one single holiday and we get a spike.
Oh, really? Is
So
it that bad out there?
It's always been that. I mean, we're certainly not up there with Florida,
I mean,
but
my family plays it down. Well, my sister talks about it a lot, but my parents they're just like meh. They just recently got their COVID shots, but actually their second shot in a couple weeks. But they're I tried to talk my dad out of being a bus driver anymore, and keep him away from the public. But he's like, I wear a mask, I'm fine. And my mom, she likes staying home. She doesn't like being around people unless she's in a casino. So
I've been healthier this year than I have been in many previous other years.
and do you attribute that to wearing a mask?
I really have to, unfortunately. I don't like the mask. I'm not unlike anyone else, but I wear it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wear it because I have to. As soon as I can take that sucker off, it comes off when I
Exactly.
get home. But I'm required to wear it, but I haven't even gotten a cold this year. Not even a cold.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm
used to
sorry,
come
the
down
mask
with
is doing something. I would have bronchitis every year, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah, you used to come down with bronchitis pretty bad every year. I remember.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it bad all the time, at least once a year. And, people can ditz on the mask if they want to, and that's their right. And I do believe people have a right to choose, but when you're in a pandemic and there's a requirement for what your work or whatever, then you have to wear it. So get over it.
But in the situation that you're at right now, you're at the job that you have right now, majority of your customers are wearing a mask. Would you say majority?
Well, I have 2 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
as you know.
Yeah.
And everyone wears masks at both jobs.
Okay. Now,
And we have temp stations at both jobs.
okay, it's time to give Shannon a little bit of a break and introduce this week's. Well, you know what? I don't feel like I can introduce this week's musical guest because they always introduce me. Yes, this week I am bringing back Lara Hope and the Arctones. Available on June 25th. Their new album, Here to Tell the Tale, will be released. But for now, just to satisfy people like me who love their sound, they've got their first single coming out, and I've got it right here on Hey Bartender Podcast. So to you guys, from their album to be released on June 25th, here is Lara Hope and the Arctones with their new single, Let's Go.
I'm gonna run through the forest, run through the trees, run through the darkness. You can't catch me. Left was familiar, left my hometown. You can try, you can't keep a good woman down. So let's go.
Once again, that was Lara Hope and their Arc Tones with their single Let's Go. If you want to find out more about them and where to download their music, head on over to their website, LaraHopeandtheArc-Tones.com. I think I'm just a sucker for the good rockabilly beat. I mean, if you didn't get up and dance to that song, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. In fact, here's something Shannon had to say about working in the bar and having to dance. It was a requirement. Check this story out. Now,
you remember that. You remember that.
Well,
now.
please
so
tell
annoying. It was so annoying.
Please tell my listeners about dance class and what it was for, because I don't know if bars still do that anywhere. But
I don't think that anybody's ever done it before. I don't know. We had to learn dance routines to certain songs. And we had to have dance class. And then throughout the period of cocktail evening, if they called out cocktailers to the dance floor, then you had to run out there and do this dance routine. Stop serving whatever you were serving, stop waiting on all your tables, and run out and do a dance on the dance floor. And
that has to get obnoxious, because even I see.
No, we didn't like it. We had to, we had food that was going out. We were serving drinks. We're doing, and we had to put everything down and stop what we were doing and run out to the dance floor and do a dance routine.
Now that was in the 90s, right?
Yes.
91. Because a lot of the corporate restaurants, I see the servers roll their eyes just when they hear that there's somebody's birthday in the restaurant, and they all have to put down what they're doing and go sing and clap.
No, we had to do a minute and a half dance routine.
But you actually had to dance for the whole restaurant.
It was completely choreographed. We actually had dance class that we had to take to do these dance routines on the dance floor, and I don't remember how many of them we learned exactly.
Was that
I think we learned new ones later. Like, I think we originally learned some, and then I think later we learned new ones, and they would literally clear the dance floor if there was anybody out there, so that we were the only ones out there.
I think I remember, the only song that I remember you talking about that you danced to was "Gimme Some Lovin'." What were others?
Yeah, well, I was actually trying to run that through my head. Yeah,
sorry,
we definitely had that one.
Yeah, I'm 2 steps ahead of you. Sorry.
I remember the kids got a kick out of it though, because I would they were pretty little then still, and I would go home and put the music on, and I would teach them the dance. Like my nieces and my kids, and I would teach them the dance, and they thought it was super fun.
Yeah.
But "Gimme Some Lovin'" I think is the one that stands out in my mind the most. And I can't remember the other ones. I think I've blocked them for some weird reason.
You get that urge when you to start dancing when you hear that beginning of that song. Ding, 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 ding.
No, I mean, you know me. You know me. I dance to all songs.
True.
So.
Very true. If you were still working in a bar right now where people can wear a mask, people have to wear a mask when they walk into the restaurant, but as soon as they sit down, they're allowed to take off the mask because they have to eat. Do you think that would be the same thing?
Like if I would be comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, you're still wearing a mask, but they're not.
I think I would be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not comfortable, you shouldn't be doing that job.
Right.
So, because obviously those people know what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
I went into my local bar to get something to eat with my girlfriends the other day for my birthday.
Yeah.
And the manager who was wearing a mask just came and sat right next to me. I wasn't wearing a mask. He was feeling comfortable.
Mm.
I think it just depends on your comfort. That waitress has the ability to stay 3 feet away from the table and still take an order
Right.
if they want to. Or they can sit down with the customer. I don't know. I think it just depends on your comfort zone. And if you're really just not comfortable about it, then you shouldn't be doing that job right now.
Right.
I personally wouldn't have gone out unless I felt comfortable with the way that they were controlling the situation.
Mm. Would have been just like old times with you and me. Close up the bar and then head over to the grocery store, buy yourself a bottle of Chardonnay, and just go home.
And buy the grilled cheese sandwich fixings.
Right.
Watch a few episodes of Buffy.
Yeah, exactly.
And fall asleep. So.
Now, one thing I have to bring up, just because it used to be our thing. I've talked about rituals that we would do after closing up the bar. We'd go to the diner, just hang out at somebody's house. But when you and I used to have somewhat of a contest where
our money contest,
right? For all the listeners, you and I would sit at your dining room table and pull all of our tips out of our pockets, out of our Crown Royal bags, whatever, and start sorting out all the bills and get all the ones into a stack. And then I'd hand you mine and say, guess how much is in there. And it scared me that you were always within $2-3 every time.
Sometimes I was right on.
Yeah,
too.
there were times where you were right on. And
we did it with quarters.
We did it with quarters too?
Well, I did it with quarters. I could tell you how much quarters were in my freaking tip jar. I know how much quarters fit in my hand.
Right.
I still know how many quarters fit in my hand. I can fit $10 of quarters in my hand comfortably without them falling. Yeah, I just got a feel for the ones somehow, and even if they were all crinkled, and you had to unfold them and you had to do all this stuff with them and lay them out.
You didn't even flare them out or anything like that. You just pinched it and kind of weighed it in your hand a little bit, and you were able to get that number.
Just from doing money for so many years.
I mean, I was always so glad because I was always tempted to say, if you guess how many is in this pile, you can have it, and you would guess it. And
it's a good thing you didn't do that.
I would lose money constantly.
You would have lost so much money, Aunt. Because I was pretty good at it. I got really good at it.
I sucked at it. You would give me your pile and I'd be off by like $10-15.
I still to this day cannot count a till without trying to guess how many ones are in it. Like at my work, I'll have this stack of ones that is not rubber band that they turned in or whatever, and I'll be like, okay, is there 25 here? Yeah, there's 25. And I'll still, I don't deal with as much money as I used to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, I used to deal with quarters too, guessing how many quarters that I had. It was pretty fun.
And you by far had the most impressive quarter collection. I remember you building up like 3 buckets full plus 2 or 3 Cuervo 1800 bottles.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That was like the bartender's savings account typically. I mean, we'd fill up 1800 bottles or beer buckets or something like that.
Yeah, because those add up. Those quarters add up. Yeah, I'd get $10 to $20 a night in quarters.
Yeah. It used to piss Cass off so bad. How come you guys don't cash in your ones at the end of the night? We don't want to.
Yeah, we didn't want to because I'd I'd shove them in Crown Bag and bring them home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like to count them at work. I could bring them home and count them. So I always had a Crown Bag with me, and I'd shove them in the Crown Bag, and I bring the Crown Bag home. Sometimes I didn't even count them that night. Sometimes I wait till I have 2 or 3 Crown Bags, and then I count them.
Right.
And be like, what night was this from? I forget. So, yeah, it was just like, I don't know, it was like a surprise at the end of the evening. So I'd like to get home and relax and then count my money after I was done closing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's one thing I miss about bartending is the tips.
Yeah, the take-home pay, that took me a long time to get over and start to realize, oh, I only have this much money this week.
Well, yeah, because when you go to your average getting paid every week or every other week or whatever it is, then you don't have those daily tips to count on.
Well, anyway, Shannon, I'm going to wrap up the show here. So, real quick, thank you so much for coming back onto the show and giving us a little bit of a point of view on what life in the bar was back in the 80s and 90s compared to what they are in the 2000s, in 2010s, now 20s, I guess.
Yeah, 20s we wouldn't know about right now, but...
But thank you so much for coming back on the show. And
well, I appreciate you having me.
I mean, I am taking advantage of a friend by, since you're a bartender and I'm running a bartender podcast, I take advantage of you to be on the show. And I greatly appreciate that you're very cooperative about it.
Well, and I very appreciate your probably very necessary editing. So,
all right. I'm going to hit this.
Because with all my randomness, I don't know how you're going to possibly do it, but I bet you'll figure it out.
Okay, people, it is last call for alcohol. Come on up to the bar, get one more before you head home, but please remember, if you do go for that one quick one before you go home, make sure you drive safe. I want to send out a special thanks to Shannon Moore, my longtime friend who is generous enough to give me her time to talk about some serious issues and some funny issues on my podcast. We've been friends for over 20 years. And, that's probably the closest that you guys will probably ever experience to a real conversation between her and me. We both can go on forever. I actually deleted a lot from this podcast in order to make times meet. So maybe I'll do a part 2 a little bit later. But also thank Lara Hope and the Arctones for letting me use their single Let's Go. Go check them out on iTunes, Spotify. Go to their website, www.larahopeandthearc-tones.com. Find out more about them because, come on. That sounded awesome, didn't it? And also thanks to Diageo Bar Academy for giving me tonight's drink special. Remember, guys, if you want to up your game on the behind the bar, you want to learn some new drinks, you want to learn more things about the restaurant industry you might not know, head on over to DiageoBarAcademy.com and go check out everything that they have. They have drink recipes. They have masterclass seminars, sort of things. It's a lot of information, and best of all, it's all free. So go check out www.DiageoBarAcademy.com. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, I wish you all lots of love, lots of sex, lots of happiness, and don't take any shit from anyone. Good night.
What do you mean it's last call? I just got here!